Hey, my lawyer say for 80K it'll go away, and that ain't no money to Jay. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, this is the episode of Gentleman's History Hour. I'm your boy Rob J10X. We got
EQ equality.
and the man of the hour right here is Darryl Austin, who is just a brilliant brother. He's a criminal defense lawyer. He's on the front lines of a lot of the hot button issues that we're having dialogue about in America today. And man, he's just full of great resourceful information. So hey, welcome to
Happy to be here, gentlemen.
Very sharp dress, brother,
Man.
too.
Well,
I'm a
you
classic,
said gentleman's
man.
history, and I thought, well, I am a gentleman.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. That's definitely what's up. Well, on the show, especially recently, we've been covering a lot of topics that deal with kind of some of the more prevalent stories in the culture, whether it was gun safety, Breonna Taylor, different things of that nature. For you today, when we were one of the persons who we had been studying was Dr. Claude Anderson, and I just have found him. To be honest, I'm kind of ashamed to say I'd never heard of him before the Breakfast Club interview that
Yeah,
he
no
did.
shame in
Better late than never. And I'll be honest, I heard of him through Hidden Colors,
Okay, wow.
the movies,
Wow.
the series, and I had to look into him. So it's the point is, as long as you heard of him and you figure it out after.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. I received that. And he just said a lot of things. And I wanted to personally, just learn more about just your day-to-day interaction, just being on the front lines on the law side. And then also some of the things that he said, I've been following, and I don't want to just hear from a legal perspective, how would he say what he's saying? Like, for example, when he says the Constitution is the first piece of affirmative action legislation written.
Right.
Like how, like, is it? And he says like the wording means that they're not talking about black people. Like,
Right. So you mean like property?
yeah, so
Property is about black people as opposed to people. Example, like I think I've listened to some of his interviews, and so in the Constitution, it's like the right of to be free to own property. Property was referring to black people, according to him, and I think it makes sense if you think about historically, black people were considered 3/5.
Yeah, the 3/5 of
human.
man.
So he's like, you have the pursuit of happiness and right to property. Property in those days, which started the country, were black people, essentially.
so the right to property was like a coded right to. You're saying that black people and property are kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, yes. So think of it like this. You've heard of the stock market.
Yeah.
The first commodity, I believe, truthfully, was black or Africans
Wow. Okay.
traded on the stock exchange. If you ever get to New York City and go to the stock exchange, you'll see cells. And there's a reason for that. They were behind bars. So the first stock was black folks, Africans,
Okay.
being in bondage and sold on the stock market. So the pursuit of happiness, quote unquote, the American dream in those days was the right to get free property, essentially, land, and cultivate that land through slavery, essentially.
Okay.
Right? How were they going to build a country without a labor force? That's Claude Anderson's teaching.
Yeah, the book. Was it Black Labor, White
Right,
Wealth?
right.
Yeah.
And so when you are considering black people, and we're speaking Africans of those days because they weren't born here, as 3/5 of a human or considering them as property, they are considered to be owned like a dog or something like that. And so people coming from wherever, they're trying to get that American dream, free land, and somebody to help them cultivate that land.
I didn't realize that America 200 million acres were given out. In the just in the start of the country, like, and I was like, man, like you just had to get here, and like,
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting read.
Yeah, one thing about Dr. Claude Anderson is his views and his pedigree in education and history, and a lot of his degrees. And when people talk about the what was Ice Cube's
The
plan?
contract with
Platinum
Black America.
plan.
Yeah, but no, not the platinum plan, but the contract with Black America.
We're calling it a platinum plan. But yeah, but he
Clark
had
he had that developed way back, even before
Absolutely.
we started talking about platinum plans or contracts with Black America. He had been working on that.
and maybe
way
Ice
back.
Cube saw or developed
Yeah,
that
he may have
ideology
consulted. Yeah, I'm wondering if he did
and
consult
thought
with
maybe
him.
I can, impose this right now for Black folks.
Yeah, Cube, he did consult with Claude Anderson. He was like one of the key contributors to the contract with Black America.
Okay, it
Yeah,
makes
for
sense.
sure.
That
Yeah.
makes a lot of
It,
sense.
it just makes sense if you actually look at it on some of the things he was asking for.
Yeah, and I know Powernomics.
But the funny thing about it, I think, if I'm being honest, Dr. Anderson was like, not this election, which is interesting because he's saying Trump is just so polarizing that we do need to rally to get him out. But this is year one, right? America, you need to know. We're going to support you again. We're going to bail you out, right? That was like the whole thing in 2008, the bailout. We're going to bail you out again. But after this, y'all got to do right by us because Trump was that bad.
Yeah, and one thing in the Ice Cube and him consulting with Dr. Claude Anderson and looking at Dr. Claude Anderson as an elder, it got me to thinking of, man, are we losing a lot of our elders, and who's stepping up and taking those spaces? Because we don't like to see politicians come and pander with talking to celebrities and athletes, but who are those other people
It's
that we
interesting.
would prefer that politicians talk to?
There are a good number, I'll call them Black folks, in different arenas stepping up. I'm a lawyer. You have a guy like Lee Merritt, for example, stepping up for civil rights. There are other attorneys in the Dallas area doing the same thing. You have people like Angela Rye. You see her on CNN. She's vocal.
But I don't look at her as, I almost look at her more like a celebrity.
I get
as
it.
opposed to,
But she is doing work on camera and behind the scenes, right? You'll have people like Stacey Abrams.
but these are young people.
Stacey Abrams is not necessarily young.
Well, yeah.
She's a little older than we are. She's credited for getting the vote out in Georgia for this past election. She ran for
that's
governor
FAMU in the
very,
building.
very close margins that she lost. So there are people that are proving themselves to be leaders.
To take those
For
positions.
sure. And it doesn't mean leadership like what we are used to in the 60s and the 70s and 80s, like the Al Sharptons. No, it's more like I have a platform, I have an idea, I have an opinion, and I have execution, right? Think of the Trayvon Martins, his attorney,
Ben Crump.
Ben Crump. I think he is truly masterful. We never see him in trial, right? But he has a machine, getting the media, getting the word out to people to say this is injustice. So he's a potential leader as
But
well.
he's a what? Civil? Is he
He's a
civil
lawyer,
rights lawyer?
civil rights lawyer, but he's getting the narrative out, right? You see him on TV. Every major case, I think it's because of him. It's not major because the people are dictating this to be a major case. He's on Breonna Taylor. He's dictating the narrative on Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, the weird thing is when we think of civil rights, we just think of black rights.
Right,
Like,
right.
He's the black rights attorney.
For us.
Yeah.
For us. And that's true, right? Whatever right you have that has been violated, he's your go-to guy. Right now, he's the champion of police misconduct, essentially.
Yeah, which is a weird
Police-
position to be in because your success is predicated on
A death.
a death or a brutality.
Well, no,
Right.
I can't say it. 'Cause I believe, I'm a little biased. Florida A&M. We got to rep the set, but I believe that Ben Crump would have been a successful. I don't think that. I mean, look, when I was in undergrad, Parks and Crumps they already were pretty lit, so to speak. So it's not like I don't think he's like
He's
ambulance
well-respected.
chasing his way to
no,
being on, or
I
if
don't,
he
I
needs
don't
dead
ever
bodies.
mean to suggest that. He's actually very successful. He was the president of the National Bar Association, which is essentially the black bar nationwide.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just pointing out the irony in that.
Yeah.
Almost as-
Civil rights wise, yeah.
Yeah, just the irony in that. And for me, when I look at
Well, initially, civil rights was for black folks,
right?
right? In the 60s, it was really about doing something for African Americans.
Yeah, and it was pros and cons in that fight. If we talk about Dr. Claude Anderson, if people go and do the research, he's been a critic of the civil rights movement in starting from the 50s and going into the 60s.
Because there was a shift where it no longer was about black folks and it became about everybody.
Yeah, it was other rights under that umbrella, but it was still some criticism at that time. And we thinking about leaders and who's the next. When you think about like a Dr. Claude Anderson and the next in line, the polarizing side to me is the bridge of a grassroots person that still has the ability to what's the word when we talk
Like
about
capture the
speaker?
heart of us, like really like
charismatic.
Galvanize.
And be charismatic at the same time, and, which is
I think it goes back to the whole when a couple episodes ago we were talking about like with being black now, our allegiance being to like our segment of blackness. I think we probably will have like just a series of segmented leaders that represent, that's the spokesperson for the, black, this side, that's black, that's black, like just that one person. And I'll tell you, like right now, we really are in need of an elder to come, and be a voice right now. But I don't know if we have an elder who could say, I believe that if Malcolm said, like, to me, I think one of the most dangerous turns that we've taken in, black inner city, violence wise, whatever, the worst thing going on in America right now is the dissing of dead people. When kids in inner cities are now killing each other, and then they now, if, let's just say, I don't want to use no real name, let's say Wood gets killed. Wood gets killed, and then later that day, we smoking on a Wood pack. They go to the spot where Wood was killed at. They do all of that.
Yeah.
And this the first time I saw something like that happen was when in Chicago with Lil JoJo, and there was a tweet about it. And even like to the levels went to now, that tweet doesn't even seem that bad. That tweet was just like he wanted to be like us. But now it's become something that really it spread from Chicago to where like in Fort Worth, there was a rapper died yesterday, and it's become something to where like now it's sparking something where like you can't come back from that. There's no forgive. I feel like Farrakhan, that this should be a Farrakhan talk right now. Look, before we don't have to put down gun. We don't have to forgive no one. Let's make an oath as Black America. We're not going to diss dead people. Like if we just started with that literally probably would save hundreds of lives. But I don't know if there's a black elder alive right now that could say that, where we would actually hear it and be like, yeah, man, we should do that.
What's interesting is like this idea, the idea that we need one person to kind of galvanize.
It's not going.
But Larry Hoover could have said that, and it would have been done. We've had one person's like throughout most of our time here. We've had people who could do those,
and I don't know that we've ever had.
No, we've had different sides.
Yeah,
it's never
even
just
with
been
Martin
one
Luther King.
soul.
You've had others at the same time.
You've had others around, some unsung, that were behind the scenes, but it's always been a multitude. But it's about that time. But one question I wanted to ask you, it just popped in my head, because when you start talking about rappers, it made me think about Nipsey Hussle and his passing and the unfortunate murder. And he had the guy that killed him had a black
Darden.
lawyer,
Darden.
Is there a case that you say I just wouldn't take?
Yeah,
or is it
so
just
that's the case probably, right? So Christopher Darden, you have to recognize he was one of the prosecutors in the O.J. Simpson trial, right? after that trial, he was kind of like a pariah. So on a strictly like survival basis, he didn't have much success after like a landmark case. So it's not a shock to me that he would represent someone in a criminal defense case. You know, and from a business perspective, it could be quite lucrative for him.
So it's business.
So like what?
It
like,
is.
What's
but
in it for
from
him
a,
though? Like what
from
can he-
a reputation, it's like, dude,
Yeah.
figure it out, right?
But how can you make? From my understanding, shitty cuz don't really have a lot of money. So how can it be good for business to?
Well, if he was hired privately, he had the money to pay him. Look at it that way. It's a capital crime. Capital meaning, well, I'll call it capital because I don't know it 100%, but capital murders are typically the death penalties on the line. So that guy could potentially be put to death if found guilty or convicted for the murder of Nipsey Hussle, right? That kind of case is a lucrative case, typically. If the guy can't pay whatever the fee is, he doesn't touch it. Or he's saying, this is a good case for me to get
Publicity.
for publicity.
He can write a book.
Yeah, because I'm like,
He can get notoriety.
Yeah, 'cause I'm
And
like,
I can make my money on the back end.
Because I read there's a YouTube show that reads like depositions, and they read like the one of the driver, the girl he's with, and I'm like, how can a guy who had to borrow money to get a Motel 6 room now all of a sudden be able to pay for Christopher Darden as a lawyer?
Yeah, but like he said,
But I guess
The money of it,
reasons,
yeah,
and
right?
how they,
It's going to be lucrative for him just because he's going to be in the media,
yeah, back in front of those cameras.
right? And that has a value to him.
Okay.
Necessarily. Black folks were outraged, but they
Yeah.
weren't shocked by it. I mean, he was a prosecutor, and the way he prosecuted the OJ case left a bad taste in a lot of black people, a lot of black people's mouths, right?
Yeah.
They weren't really looking at him like, you're the man. And they had like that TV show, which made him look terrible.
yeah, the OJ, yeah.
You know, with Cuba Gooding Jr. and all those, like they had
Yeah,
a couple-
that was a
right,
good series.
right.
Yeah.
It made him look
America
bad.
versus
Yeah.
OJ or
Yeah,
something.
it made
like
him
that.
look bad, so that doesn't help the narrative, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Let me ask you this, Darryl.
Yeah.
Who would be considered and maybe this is a rhetorical question, and I don't want to use the word celebrity lawyer, but the first known black
First like
lawyer?
household name lawyer.
Yeah, household name lawyer.
I can think of two.
Okay.
Alton Maddox was one. I come from the New York, New Jersey area. He was big time in New York, especially like Harlem area. Alton Maddox.
Around what era of time was
That
he?
was when Al Sharpton and the Tawana Brawley
Oh.
was going on.
I don't know. That may not be a good.
I'm just telling you, that was then, right?
Yeah, that was the Jesse Smollett of its time.
I'm just telling you, but he got a lot of people interested in hiring him, right? Just off of name recognition and what he was doing. The other one would be Johnny Cochran. It's just because of the celebrities that were hiring him as a black figure.
Yeah.
Right? You hear Rick Ross talk about his lawyers, and there are other lawyers out there that rappers talk about. I worked with one. But those are the two in my generation that were influential for me in particular that I can say, well, I know their work. I know what they did.
If it doesn't
That
fit,
were black.
you must have quit.
Right? And,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny you do that.
Yeah.
He gets a terrible rep for that, as if that line was
was
what
the only-
caused the acquittal. No, I mean, he was really smart.
Yeah.
He was really articulate. He was really well prepared, and the defense was sound. Now, what did he do during the trial? He was flashy. He was walking around with the hat on and all of that, and that swag. But the work he put in was quite masterful.
I wonder if he could have if he could have trademarked that.
If it doesn't fit, you must
Easily,
quit.
he could have.
He could
Absolutely,
have trademarked that.
he could have.
Because I mean, it's been
It's a
said.
great line.
I'm sure T-shirts and
It's a great
all
line.
sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, but I got to give Juice his credit too, though, because look,
He sold it.
He's already a strong man, so you see a football player do
his
like,
acting chops were on. He was like,
and then he held it up for the jury too. Like, like, no, he did that, man.
yeah, his acting chops were on display.
I wanted to ask you something too, and like about we was talking about DA, not the DA, the prosecutor. Is it looked at like kind of like, I don't know, black attorneys that go into prosecution? Is there kind of like a maybe from the community?
No, there's a stigma. That's what you're getting at.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
There's a stigma, but you got to look at it this way. There's a stigma in a certain populace of the black community.
Okay.
If you're an educated black man, you know, if somebody came to your house and robbed you or broke in and you'd call the police, there's no stigma. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you call the police to come to your house?
Yeah, someone broke in. Yeah.
There's no stigma for you.
Yeah, no, I'm not
If
under
you're
the
the type
gangster code. I call police.
You're a civilian.
Right. So there's no stigma.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. There's no stigma. It goes kind of like to the Joe Biden thing. There's no stigma if you are not afraid of the police department.
Yeah.
Being a black prosecutor is really and I'm not saying be a prosecutor or not, but it is helpful when that particular person has an understanding of the community, has an understanding of like empathy. That person can make a great difference because of the power he has as a prosecutor. It doesn't have to go to the judge, right? I'm saying as a prosecutor, you have the power to prosecute or not. The judge can't make you prosecute. And so, and this is a true story. I've had cases where I was a former DA in New York. I remember one young adult had basically everything going for him. He was like 16 and about to go to college. At I forgot what school it was in Maryland or DC area. He had a full ride. 17 caught with weed. That was about to just destroy everything. And I said, look, I told the mom straight up, I'm going to set it over. I'm going to remember this case the next time I come. Bring the letter of acceptance and I'll make it happen for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Bring the letter of acceptance so I can at least say, all right, I know. Even if you don't go, I didn't care. I just knew you had the opportunity. Whatever you do with yourself after that, it's not for me to, but it's weed.
Yeah.
It's de minimis.
Nice word. Man.
But you can do that as a prosecutor if you are willing to realize you have the autonomy and you have the power to also make a change for good.
Yeah, I want to say with the when T.I. got caught with all of those guns, one of the things that helped him out was telling the whoever his team was, letting the judge know he's better served being out of jail and being a cautionary tale. Right. Using his celebrity as a cautionary tale.
Yeah,
is that around the time where he allegedly talked that?
Yeah, he was talking people off the roof, and then he became a superhero.
Come on, shout get out the roof.
I was like, whoa.
But the reality is he, you know, if I was representing him at that time, I would say he's a philanthropist.
Well, yeah,
he's a celebrity.
Yeah, I mean that's
a lot of things other
statement.
than a predator, right? Yeah. He might have had guns, but the reality was those were guns for protection. Yeah, because he had some kind of a beef.
It was like he's better served going and telling young kids,
don't do as I do.
You know, he had a traumatic experience. His best friend was in a car with him and murdered.
But this is this gentleman's history hour. So we talk about the now, we talk about the then, and like we say, we like to have barbershop talk about history, like people talk about hip hop or talk about sports. One of the things I wanted to ask you is a lot of us know Thurgood Marshall. We came up knowing Thurgood as the first Black Supreme Court justice. And we've had shows, we've talked about, like one of our last shows, we talked about our top 5, talking about debaters and orators. And when you think about the people like Malcolm or Martin or Garvey, and these are certain people that we've talked about that had a history of mobilizing Black people in America. Who do you think would make some good attorneys?
Yeah, so I am not someone that feels the profession is so elite. Like I would be at the club especially when I first got when I was like first, an attorney, I would meet people and they say, I could have been a lawyer. And I would tell them, you still can.
Wow, that's real.
Right? Like you still can. If you have the aptitude to have reading comprehension and you can write, you can learn the critical thinking aspect of the law. And so a lot of our past leaders, like a Martin, like a Malcolm, like an Angela Davis, she's still around, so I'm not going to call her a past
I think
leader.
Baldwin would have made a great.
Baldwin especially was a debater, right? He had the King's language better than the people that invented the King's language.
Yeah.
Right? His mind was sharp as a whip. He could have easily been a great lawyer, right? The difference is Thurgood had a little something extra, right? He had all the smarts, he had all that, and he had presence, right? You can't teach presence. You really can't. Like, he was tall, he was handsome, and he was with it. He's charismatic, and he was with it, right? He knew.
See, whenever
he knew the nuance.
Whenever we saw pictures of Thurgood, it was always the older.
Yeah, I've never
That's
really,
right.
I don't really know what he looked like.
Think of so I read a book of his, a book about him, and it talks about, this is what I mean about presence. So we know without a doubt he's well prepared and smart. I think he was like valedictorian of like every school he ever went to. All right, so we can't take that away from him. He had a great mentor, Charles Hamilton Houston, the dean or whatever. Like this was the man. But Thurgood had that it factor, where people would just glued on him. And I remember in the story they talked about he was a Mason, I believe, and he's in like this white jury. White county where the jury is all white people, and he flashes a Mason signal to say kind of like hello, right? Little things like that. It's the that's not on the record, but he's telling the jury like, I'm cool, we're good, we have common bond, we have a common ideology. He gave him the signal to say hello. That's gamesmanship.
The secret society.
That's gamesmanship, but it's smart, right? Because he's ultimately working for the best interests of his client.
I wonder if Thurgood was a boule.
I don't know. I know in this particular story, it was basically.
I like that gamesmanship, man.
But it's part of the game, right? It's not about guile, is what they say. Like everybody wants everything to be like vanilla and black and white, but you have to have personality. Yeah, I feel.
No, definitely.
Like in trial, people they're coming to see a show.
Exactly, and
they're coming to the podcast because they're interested in learning and watching. Huh?
I said because you here, just a gamesmanship thing that made me think about. For viewers watching offline, Darryl beats me in chess a lot. But I was playing a guy in chess the other day, and what he did was after he beat me, he came and explained. He's like,
"Did he talk bad to you?"
No, this guy he a little different. He don't really. He talks after the game, but he said, "You know what I did? I made a bad move over here, but this is what I did." I said, "Damn!" And I looked to the right, and I noticed you followed my eyes up to the right. So you didn't see what I did, and I realized you followed my eyes, so I could take your attention where I wanted to go. So it's just like little gamesmanship stuff. Like it got me thinking about I
like chess. I like chess for a lot of reasons. It's psychological.
What about
thinking ahead?
We had an episode. We talked about the younger years of Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, and it makes me wonder what kind of lawyer Huey would have been had he stayed on that path.
He was smart, right? He went to law school. I believe he graduated. I believe he was a lawyer, actually. I think he would have been I think he could have been easily one of the top guys out in California, right? Like, just think about Black people walking in the streets with guns.
Yeah.
We talk about know your rights.
Yeah.
These guys mastered their rights. It's a little different.
Let's dig deep on that.
And that has got to be in great respect to his attention to detail and the knowledge of the law.
Because you say though, like we'll have people. That was a great segue. Because like something like a know your rights, right? As much as the slogan is know your rights, we know significantly less rights than people who didn't have the internet, didn't have this, that, and the other. So it's like
Yeah, we don't read as a society these days.
What can we do, like, for us non-lawyers, but still to have a legal base? Like, what are some things? And we've had, we've had previous guests. We got some book giveaways coming up. But like, what are some things that you recommend just your everyday civilian just know about the law, read or stay up to date with?
Right. Well, there's certain things that remain true. For example, as a driver in a vehicle, know your rights is you get pulled over. Not that you're doing anything wrong. We have a belief or an inherent trust in authority. So if a cop asks you when he pulls you over, do you mind if I look in the car? Psychologically, we're saying, no, I don't mind because I want to prove to you there's nothing going on here.
Yeah.
Right? But if you are truly somebody that knows your rights, you will say, I respect you, but no, you may not search my car.
Well, see,
Right.
but why doesn't Know Your Rights have somebody like you doing 30-second segments, giving these manageable, easy to remember lines? That gets back to one of the issues that I feel like me and my brother here share some time with. Our frustration with slogans is like, you're the first person that I've actually heard explain applicable Know Your Rights. What we have is a bunch of hashtag Know Your Rights, and it just, it's like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, so know your rights. Really, what you're saying needs to become viral, right? There's apps. There's all these things to protect citizens, and sometimes it happens when you have a major like vehicle infraction that results in some heinous outcome.
Yeah, I think one of the best rights to know is the right to remain silent.
Right.
man.
And right. So that works in a lot of ways. Look at it like this. He says the right to remain silent, right? That's the Fifth Amendment. But think about it in the First Amendment, freedom of speech. What does that mean? The freedom to speak or not. So if I say, sir, who did you vote for? What is your response after I just gave you that?
I plead the
fifth.
No, see, it's First Amendment. It's First Amendment. We're just talking.
Like,
I choose to exercise my right not to share who I voted for.
So why
First
can't plead?
Amendment.
Why can't? What
It's
if I
not-
like the
it's
fifth
not-
better than the first?
Because we're just talking, right? Plead the fifth is more of a criminal context.
Okay.
You're pleading the fifth to.
Yeah, but from a
not
civilian
incriminate you.
standpoint, we just hear I plead the fifth. And
Exactly.
I don't want to answer that
But
question.
think of it more like First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Okay. Oh,
You are a law-abiding people, right? Think of it like that's what I'm saying. Most people believe in the police and trust them.
Well,
They do. Like if you get pulled over by the cop and he asks you're a little more knowledgeable. But the average person, let's take the average 18-year-old
It's not
that
that you
just gets
believe
his
in them. It's
license.
just that you think. A lot of times, I feel like you're thinking. You see, like a lot of things that are inherent nature of as Black Americans is not the correct way to operate in a lot of corporate police things.
I agree
In
with
our
that.
community, if something went down, and hey, listen, Dad, I'm not even gonna lie. Look, my brother, he kept coming over, and I did it. I pushed him. I didn't know he was gonna fall down. He busted an ankle. What are we gonna do? We're gonna reward the honesty. You know what, son? You were honest about it. So when we get in front of these situations, in front of police, whatever, hey, is that yours?
Well, that's a different scenario.
No, but I'm saying that's how a lot of times young Black men
Let's
slip
parse that out a little bit.
Okay.
You're talking about somebody that might have committed a crime.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying inherently, as a people, as citizens of America, we are indoctrinated to trust the police and trust the authority of the police. And so when the police comes in contact with you, your initial reaction is to comply.
see, I don't think we're complying out of trust. I think we're complying out of fear.
If whatever it is, your initial reaction is to comply.
Yeah.
Right? And what I'm saying to you is part of knowing your rights is you do not have to comply. So that's almost like forward thinking. Like we all know
you can say no.
You can say no.
It's within your right to say
Okay,
no.
yeah, I see that.
We all have heard this.
Yeah.
But we don't do it. I have clients left and right that have been arrested and convicted and still will commit crimes and we'll let cops search their car. And then we'll talk to the police afterward. Everybody knows don't speak to the police, like you said, the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah. Hey, when
they
you do
won't
that,
do
do
it.
you have to say, I plead the Fifth, or can you just say no?
I'm not speaking to you.
Okay.
I want a lawyer.
Okay.
I want the
I
right
want
to
a
remain
lawyer.
silent. I want to
don't have-
exercise the right to.
You don't
my
even have to
attorney.
do that. If you are jammed up, you are in a position where you know this could be bad. I want a lawyer.
Okay.
That's it. That's supposed to stop the interview.
Yeah, I mean,
I
this
want a
is the
lawyer.
advice I would, and the advice I would give my son.
That's just practical.
Hey,
I want
you
a
have the
lawyer.
right to remain silent and keep the card of an attorney on you.
Right.
So hey,
But even if you
wanna
don't
call
have a
mine?
card, that you're going to spend the night in jail.
Yeah.
Just understand. But you're not going to make it worse for the lawyer when he gets the case.
Yeah.
And you've told on yourself.
talking.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
That's different than the community. I was about to say the hood. The community taking care of their own.
Yeah.
Right? Like we look at it like, well, that's a small crime. That don't mean he should go away for 50 years for doing whatever he did. There's a
Yeah.
difference. I'm simply saying inherently we trust. the
Yeah, because
police.
they're in the black community. It's like two sets of laws.
Yeah,
You
I
got
can't.
the
I don't trust
civilian-
the police. I can't
Well,
say that.
yeah, but you
But
have
as a
the,
group,
you have
we
the
do. I
you
mean,
have
just
the
as people, we do.
you have the civilian, and then you have the street code. The civilian code, it's just like when people talk about snitching. You have the civilian code of the definition of a snitch, and then you have the street code of the definition of a snitch. With trusting the law, it's these layers of depending on what code you live by.
Yeah, and they manipulate that, right? They rely on it.
Yeah, I will say when I did, when I was working at a university out here, and we had university police, and I was like, as a web developer, I had to work the latest hours of anybody on campus, and I would be there 1, 2, 3, sometime in the morning, and just walking. I see the police, and I felt it was the only time in my life I felt safer when the police were around. Like I felt like when they came by, they had my best interest at mind, and I felt like, man, wow, this is what it feels like for police to like not be an adversary. It was a real unique experience.
So I'll bring it all the way back to Claude Anderson, right?
All right.
That's one of his things, one of his tenets. He has the 5, what is it? The building blocks for a house. You got to get the police on board, right?
He
And
did
so
say
what
that.
you've articulated is like all cops are not bad, right?
Yeah.
You have articulated like in the black community we need more black police officers that understand like everything isn't the crime of the century,
Yeah.
right?
definitely.
You've articulated that police can do their job and be members of the community and treat you with respect.
No, I ain't Blue Shield or nothing. I'm just.
I'm not saying you are, but when you telling me you feel safe, I don't have that necessarily that experience all the time.
Well, no, that was
Like,
because
if
I
I'm
was
in the
a
street
key
and a cop
employee.
rolls by me.
He
I
said
don't.
he
No.
felt safe at that moment.
I felt safe
Exactly.
at that
At
moment
that
because I
moment.
was a key at that one existence. I wasn't a black man person just alone. I was a valuable citizen. Like
Exactly.
so there was a
Exactly.
level of concern about me, and the police there. They didn't
this was
view me
where?
as.
On college campus.
Yeah, it
At
rhymes with.
HBCU.
Yeah, no, not HBCU
Oh, okay,
and HBU, but it was like it was when I was there, it was like, okay, I know these police officers because they're coworkers, but
Exactly.
but so I can't compare it to like me driving down Westheimer tonight, but I was saying
But you can if the idea is that community policing means getting to know your community.
well, I can't because those police actually had a positive disposition of me. So they saw me there at 2 or 3 in the morning. They didn't assume that I was there. I was drinking or I was They assumed that I was there. Work day. Man, there must be something important going on, or there must be a shift in the site going on. It must be a server change.
I
They
think that's
assumed
where we need to
I
get
had the benefit of the doubt of positive of goodness. You know what I'm saying? Like in a way that I hadn't really had.
But he's saying, imagine if that university is a community.
Yeah.
And the cops have been patrolling that community, and they know the community like that,
They're
and they
gonna
know,
give you the
okay,
benefit of the doubt.
yeah, this guy because
Yeah, yes.
I've been around the
That's
community.
the idea with Claude Anderson saying
That's actually it.
build the
Yeah, that's
justice
dope. Yeah, that's-
level.
Hey man, if an 8-year-old know who who's running the dope in the community. You think the cops don't know?
Right.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Yeah, okay, my bad. I'm so like the correlation.
Yeah, no,
I'm making,
but the point is, it's better if they are part of the community, right?
Yeah,
if they look
see
at
that.
themselves as a part, a new word, part, a part, or what a part or a part, A-P-A-R-T. There's a difference, right? We mix those up.
Man,
Do they look at themselves as a part of the community or a part? A part, A-P-A-R-T, we're talking about what you're talking about. If they look at themselves as a part, one word, we have problems.
Man, I listened to I forget the name of it. I think it's called Gangster Chronicles, but it's like Reggie White, who's like these are all ex-Death Row security, and they were all these guys from Compton. A lot of them Bloods and stuff like that. But Reggie Wright's father was a police officer, and the admiration that they all have for his father, because he was the father, that he was a police officer that was like, yo, I'm coming to your house. Look, you know there's a warrant out for you. You can come with me, or you might get killed. So
Right. It's best if you do it this way. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Let's have a smooth transition. It's out of my hands. It's
Yeah,
a
and these are hardened gangsters, that really have a value. Like Reggie White's probably the only person, not Reggie White, but whatever his last name is, Reggie. He's probably the only person that I've seen be respected by street dudes from his lineage of being a son of a cop.
There are a lot of those guys. And I'll be honest, I'll bring it back to Biden and the crime bill that he did. A real large segment of the black community was for it for a reason. Right? And that's likely the voter block and those people that will donate. Right? There's books about we want our own police.
In that too.
Middle class and upper
going on
middle
at that
class
time.
black America was really behind it. And for good reason, right? Because they don't have the...
At that time, it may have appeared to look like good reason because of what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Not knowing
epidemic, right.
But not understanding the implications that it would have in the future.
And they know it's not affecting them the same way as it is affecting a lower economic or socioeconomic.
But some of the people that implemented it, they knew.
yeah.
And it's a way you can take advantage of the community. Just like he said, not knowing your rights, not knowing the politics behind it.
Yeah.
I'm selling it to you one way,
Yeah.
but I'm practicing it a different kind of way.
I think
And so he had a lot of... he just did. He had a lot of support.
One thing we have to be careful as black people, in my opinion, is really taking our removal from the ground level of things that are happening in our inner city and the lowest, because more of us are doing bad than doing good. And
You think that? You think more of us are doing bad than good in the community?
Yeah, I think if we were percentage-wise, I think if we were to just do a poll, I would think there's more of us uneducated than educated. There's more of us
I misunderstood
living
what you
below that. I think overall we're trending in the right direction, but I think I believe I could find 1.5 dope boys for every lawyer. Maybe two, maybe four.
Yeah, when you said doing bad, I took it a different way.
I guess, but maybe
You're
bad.
saying struggling.
Yeah, no, what bad was probably the wrong way. I think more of us are still in the struggle than in the breaking change mode. And bad was. I apologize to all the black nation. Bad is the wrong.
Because I would
wrong
say
word.
we are pretty much a law-abiding society.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean. No, I definitely didn't mean bad. Meaning bad.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But
We're just struggling economically and everything else.
Yeah, so but I know even for myself, like I was saying, I had a family tragedy last week. And I realized I was so far removed from what's going on in my family, from pretty much, Hollywood Grove, Uptown, New Orleans, whatever. I'm so far removed from that. I literally, my black experience is so different. Mm-hmm. It didn't even cross my mind what goes on, at the infantry level or at the ground roots level or whatever. So I can see how, if I've been a politician for 20 years, my black experience is talking to an architect every morning about whatever it is, hearing about, all of the thoughtful things that were done, talking to you, talking to, but it's not really I can slip up and think that this is the experience for everyone. And then I think that's when the rude awakening, like which I just had went through, kind of happened. So I'm saying, bringing that back to the crime bill, I don't excuse the people who supported it, but I do think that it's possible that you can just be so far removed from that you don't even know that. Like,
and you're hoping they would understand, like, there are real like direct effects on this. Like, who could it possibly really affect other than your own community, right? And we get that from history. We get to look at it that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at it from the historical lens because we've seen the effects of it.
Yeah, or we've lived through it.
But
right?
yeah, and it should be a learning experience that we don't get caught up in that again.
Again, right?
And that's the takeaways, and that's the reason for understanding history, and not just ancient history, but history from the 1980s.
This is our era, really.
History from the 1996. History from the three strikes law. And,
we're talking Reagan, Clinton, really Nixon, Reagan, Clinton. That's our lifetime.
And just that history and how it affects us moving forward now, and what happens with how things. One thing about America, it likes the constant flow of things. Hey, it's like a business. This is how it's operating. Keep it flowing the way it flows. The rich stay rich, the poor stay poor. Keep that line divided. Don't mess up the natural order of the hierarchy of the elitism and whatever else, the rich versus the poor. So when you have those historical moments, like those crime bills, or like those three strike laws, or like you said, you talk about Nixon and Clinton, and can't forget about the Bushes and those guys, and bringing it to the politics and how these laws are constructed. You got to understand, we started with the Constitution. We talked about the 3/5 of man. It was never constructed with your well-being to overtake something in mind.
Man, the more we learn about history, the more I see things that happen that I was like, wow, that was really, y'all really pulled it in front of me. Like, I'm gonna tell you, like, just, I mean, I'm not gonna say no names, but I'll just say, hey, at my previous employer, they came and they did an annual employee overview, and they were celebrating diversity. And when they did the diversity numbers, they included the janitorial staff as diversity hires. So literally, you're talking about 90% of the staff is executives, professors, web department, this, that, and other. And then for the minorities, you're counting cafeteria cashier, janitor,
To get
the
numbers.
And then bragging about it. Like, look, if you go on that campus and you drop a piece of gum on the ground, it's probably gonna be picked up by a minority. But if you go and sit in the class, it's probably gonna be taught by someone from a different ethnicity. And it was just like, wow, like I felt like I started, and I didn't even notice that one I noticed. So I was like, well, hold up, but y'all can't get that one off from me. I tried to be the spook by the door, but that one there, I couldn't even be quiet no more. That was kind of what it led to. But I'm starting to see these things now, where it's like, man, like, different ways of like manipulating things to even like that's an insult to me. To say that we have this much diversity and you're counting, and I'm not nothing against janitors, nothing against people who, work on the service side of things, but you are clearly engaging in a nefarious number thing to make yourself feel good and insult me in my face.
You hit on a word, man, that always kind of triggers me, man. This word minority, like I cringe when I hear it but I would like to hear it, like, as a legal expert, what does that word really mean to you from a legal perspective?
Non-white now.
But white women are minorities.
Non-white men. Wow. Truly, and you're right. I'll never forget this. I was a 1L my first year in law school. There was a minority scholarship. They had this whole big meeting. There was a white girl sitting right next to me. I'm saying, hey, this is for minorities. We're talking blacks, Asians, Latino, you know. She said, well, white women are minorities in the legal profession. I said, oh, wow. What could I say to that? I said,
I would have said, wow. That's all I
can say, right? Like, I just was uninformed.
Yeah, another thing
But
that
I learned at that moment, we are competing for, and it's not affirmative, it's just like spots, right? We are already competing with other black people as a black person. We're competing with Latinos, Asians, Indians, and now we're also competing with white people who are the leaders in the industry with the women.
Yeah, I wish we would make that more visible because one, I think the inherent like interpretation when people hear that is they think, okay, maybe blacks or people of color or whatever, but really the way it's applied technically, it applies to a broader spectrum than we even realize. And what even makes me more cringe is that we like use that word on ourselves. Whether it's I'm a numbers person, so whether it's mathematically accurate or not, we still refer to our words as, I look at the root of the word, which is minor. I'm like, no, I'm not minor.
Yeah,
you feel me?
Major.
Right, but that's, it's just.
Because it's only in America.
Yeah.
But globally and throughout the diaspora, no.
It's interesting. Like that was just a teachable moment for me to recognize, like, not that I didn't know about the glass ceiling. It's just that you need to know, like, this is a potential spot that could be taken by somebody else that you might have figured was for you. Right?
Yeah, but
so don't get so comfortable.
Yeah, but it goes back to us.
Not saying it's right or wrong, but just for me, it was like, don't get so comfortable that you're not competing. Here as
true.
well.
But it goes back to us thinking from just the local level of being here in the United States and saying, oh, yeah, black people make up 13%. But that's like looking at the continent of Africa full of black people and almost not even wanting to call Africa a continent.
Right.
And having kids not even think that Africa is even considered a continent and how big it is as a continent. So words, and I understand in the legal profession, your profession is words and understanding words.
Yeah. And
you're selling
classifications.
words. Yeah, you're selling words.
But you know,
in con law, we deal with classifications, right? So that can make you almost like a minority. Are you being discriminated based on race, alienage, nationality, gender, legitimacy? Are you, do you know who your parents are? Like any kind of.
Yeah.
Just like we saying minority, you said people of color. That people of color used to, for some people would denote, oh, that's a black person.
Right. It used to have
now
that meaning.
people of color
It's expanded.
But you have to be very specific.
But peep this though, right? Like when it comes to like legislation for, which shout out to the Elder Claw for really, I love his definition of politics, determine who distributes.
Oh yeah, quid pro quo. Yeah.
So there's never been, to my knowledge, any legislation passed for black Americans, period, right? But if we go to California and me and you go do a crime as right now, okay, cool, we did a crime. But if me and you go do a crime, we both got on this blue rag or whatever, and we got pictures thrown these whatever up, and we're under a gang injunction, well, who else gets locked up under the gang injunction more than us? So we can have specific crimes to us, but we can't have specific benefits.
Legislation's passed.
Because I've never heard of a motorcycle. I've never heard of a Hell's Angel having
a bill being passed,
having their their crime tripled because it was gang injunction.
Just like
Well,
with
Rico. You ever heard of Rico?
Well, Rico, yeah, but Rico, I'm not saying, I know that's created for the mob, so I was just saying but Italian Americans don't have the same issue as far as where they're.
Yeah, it was similar to the crack being caught with crack as opposed to the time that you.
But I know what you're saying.
With,
There's not
cocaine.
continuous legislation. To vilify.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow, if we can put time aside to realize that, hey, there needs to be a gang injunction. We can't find time to realize that, like, hey, like one thing that Dr. Claus said I agree with a lot is that, like, I feel like in true science, biologically, we're a dominant gene. Anything that you mix with black is gonna be black. You know,
surface, right?
but I think like politically, we're a recessive gene. Like anything that you mix with black is gonna dominate the black. So if it's black LGBT, we're gonna be recessive. If it's black, and then workplace affirmative act, we're gonna be recessive. You cannot put us with anyone else without us being like in the background and them being, Michael, Beyonce, whatever, the star of the show, the legislative show. And
We do get there is a lot of legislation on our backs that benefits many others than ourselves.
yeah.
Or we get thrown into the pot with others to make it appear that we benefit from it.
Yeah.
It's like when we said civil rights. It wasn't black rights. They put the word civil.
Yeah.
Civil, other people can fall under civil as opposed to specific rights. They say, okay, these rights.
Which not to be like, so it's like Native Americans. Dr. Anderson, that was one of our topics, one of our points of discussion. He is trying to get reparations for what he determines Native African Americans or Native blacks, which is people that can trace their lineage to slavery. Because there's a real question, like, look, all three of us are black, right? You look at us, we're black. What if my family's from the West Indies or from Great Britain? They came over from, in Ellis Island in the very beginning, but they went through Jim Crow and all that other stuff. Do they get reparations?
Well, you said they came when they got here?
Ellis Island, right? So they would not get it. That's the point. So he's
They deserve something though. They deserve.
Hey fellas, that's a whole nother.
They deserve something.
That's a whole nother gentleman's history hour.
They deserve a little something.
But he's saying.
But that's a whole nother gentleman's history hour discussion. Right
he's
there.
saying perhaps, but not in this, right? Because you are not a native son of slavery, which built the country.
I feel that.
Yeah, the economy.
Right? You are a black person. You have endured the harsh racism of being black in America probably for 200 plus years, but you were not in bondage and working for free. So he would say you would, not that you in particular, but you, Mr. Ellis Island lineage, does not benefit from this. This is just for those that were.
Well, I'm gonna say this, man. Look, this is what I'm gonna agree with him on. Hey, whatever I could do my ancestry, and I could be from wherever, Ghana, this, that, and the other. Look, my brothers, my ancestry is Black American descendants of slaves. These are my brothers right here. That's
another episode.
Hey, man,
that we'll embark on in the near future. But before we wrap this up, Darryl, I just want you to. I'm really big on looking at the future and the kids, and just. I don't want to get cliche and say what advice would you give a young kid, but what would make you encourage a young black woman or a young black man to get into law? The importance of it.
Right. So, and that's a good question. I have mentored for sure high school students, and I tell them, the law is. It's like I said, anybody can be a lawyer. Why would I encourage you to be a lawyer? Because we need representation. On a very surface level, we need people that care to represent our community in a criminal justice system, which is notoriously racist against us, right? And that's kind of like why I do what I do, right? I feel like it's a higher calling. People ask me, do you like the law? I'm like, no, I love it, right? I love what I do. I'll never retire. That's what I tell them. And so I encourage students to read, to be critical thinkers, to be leaders, right? I also encourage STEM classes, right? Because maybe they want to be a doctor. But in terms of the law or being a lawyer, I'm not telling them to be lawyers just so they can make $1 million for a law firm, right? I'm saying social engineers. That's Charles Hamilton Houston. That was his big thing. He was Thurgood's mentor, social engineers. And I get these students to just think about themselves in a way that's positive. Like, we have a community. I can be a leader in my community, like taking stock in ourselves. And it takes, tutelage. I tell them, take these classes in college. When you're in law school, I give my card out to law students and tell them, you want to be a trial lawyer, hit me up. I'll get you right. We'll try to get you an internship where I work or at another place, like maybe a public defender's office or even a prosecutor's office, right? Like, Black people need to be in all of these. We need Black judges, we need Black defense attorneys, and we need Black prosecutors. We do. Because we are the ones that suffer if we leave it up to non-Black, we'll call it, okay?
Gotcha.
And so that is something I speak to law students in particular that have figured out this is what I want to do. And I talk to college students and I say, if you want to go into law, you really want to do it, because if you're going for money, you may not like it and you waste your time. So,
Well, we appreciate you, brother. Keep fighting the good fight, doing
try.
the good work. Thanks for being one of the sharpest guests.
well, thank you for having me.
Gentlemen's
I just knew
History
this
Hour.
is Gentleman's History Hour. I thought,
You look the part, man. Esquire.
Great job, man.
Hey, this is Gentleman's History Hour. Continue to do the knowledge. Continue to read the books. Peace. Salute. If you're watching this on YouTube, man, hey, y'all, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. This is Gentleman's History Hour.